Good day, everyone. You're welcome to the OID Foundation Social Talk series. My name is Dr. Lara Babajide. Today, I'm going to be speaking on stigmatization. What is stigmatization? It is a sign of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person. What are the types of stigmatization? There is self-stigmatization, there is public stigmatization, there is professional stigmatization, and there is also institutional stigmatization. Looking at self-stigmatization, we're talking about when people put negative attitudes and beliefs to themselves. That is, as a person, you feel that you are just not relevant. You feel you are not important to your family. There's a sense of shame. There's a sense of inferiority complex, disappointment, embarrassment, and self-blame. Many people who self-stigmatize don't see themselves being worthy of something good. They feel they're just worthless, most especially to their immediate environment. Public stigmatization is the self-opinion people may have against others. When you talk about self-stigmatization, it is a negative attitude. It is internalized shame. And most often, people with special diseases are often stigmatized. Let's take, for example, if somebody has HIV/AIDS. If nobody knows about this person's ailment, is better off. But once somebody recognizes that, oh, this person has AIDS, you discover that people would like to identify that person with that disease. And so the person develops a kind of shame about their condition. Professional stigmatization. This often happens when healthcare professionals stigmatize their patients. They bring internalized shame. Many times in the healthcare profession, we don't have people who can mentally help a patient. A patient walks into the hospital sick, and the only thing a medical profession can tell the person is, oh, get yourself together because you're going to live for just like 6 months or 3 months, or stigmatizing the person by the disease, giving a ray of hopelessness to the person. That is professional stigmatization. And institutional stigmatization is when an institution presents negative attitudes within it. Most of the time, it is directed towards people with mental health issues. Organizations should be able to manage stigmatization in the work environment. Kudos to organizations that try to erase this, to educate people, but at the same time, there are a lot of shortfalls when we talk about institutional stigmatization. What are the causes of stigmatization? Lack of understanding. Life in general holds different positions to different people at different times. So stigmatizing anybody is just a mere lack of understanding, because sometimes life can change at any time for anybody. So if you like understanding about life itself, then there is a tendency to want to accord somebody with an element of disgrace. Secondly, there is negative attitude towards those who deviate from cultural norms. Let's take, for example, women who do not have children. Why would anybody stigmatize them? It's very common for people to address them as being childless. Very common for people to find a way of just inflicting a little disgrace into this categories of people or women. Sometimes people decide that they're just going to live their life outside the conventional societal expectation. These categories of people should not be stigmatized. Misleading and inaccurate information also affects stigmatization. Many times, people are always ready to jump into conclusion. Let's take women who are divorced. In our present society, especially in the African setting, if women are outside marriage, they are often seen as irresponsible. They are often seen as a failure. They are often seen as, oh, she's not married. She doesn't have a husband, so she's nobody. Or let's even take women who, let's say, they have specific sex of children. In the advanced world, nobody really bothers about this. In the developing countries, women can be stigmatized based on the sex of the children they possess. It's misleading because the sex of a child is not solely determined by the woman. Then there's fear. Fear also causes stigmatization. What will people say? How would I handle this? What does it matter? Every individual in life is unique. We all have a race to run. We all have periods when life is in support of us and when life is not in support of us. So whichever way we perceive ourselves, we should not stigmatize others. Then there is race, ethnicity, and culture. Many times people get stigmatized based on their race, their culture, and their ethnic group. Let's take, for example, people who have a different complexion, or let's say people who are Black. Many times they are stigmatized. Sometimes people even stigmatize based on the way you talk, or people feel the only reason why you could speak in a particular way is because you are from a particular structure. So they are ready to quickly say, oh, he has an accent. This brings stigmatization for those who are not willing, are not ready to fight it or battle it. People look at some cultures as, oh, they're tough, they're friendly. They are not friendly. They are bad people. I mean, this can cause a lot of stigmatization. Who are the people that are mostly affected by stigma? I'm going to, first of all, look at women and girls. Women and girls are always stigmatized in total, even in general. Women or girls are often classified in a special category. In the workplace, there's ongoing debate about, let's say, pay equity. Why would there be continuous debate on pay equity? Why will a woman in the workplace be stigmatized as possibly less productive, or possibly do not have the strength of a man? And why are girls always seen as not being are strong enough or not being able to take some special responsibility like their male counterparts. These categories are usually affected either in the social level, at the social level, either at the professional level, either in the public. There's always a stigma on a girl child. Even in cases of situations that affect women and men or girls and boys, it is easy for the society to easily stigmatize the girl child, to accord blames. Another categories of people who get stigmatized are, like I previously mentioned, are women who are childless, who are divorced, unmarried. They often get stigmatized in the African society. And even children get stigmatized. Also, people with people who are visible minority. Oftentimes, even in the employment world, people are asked to fill form, and you are asked, what race, are you ready to identify with your race? Are you ready to identify as a visible minority and all that? Many times you think it aligns with the employment procedure. No, it's just to bring a kind of stigmatization to the visible minority, which shouldn't be. People should not be suppressed based on their complexion, based on the way they speak, based on accent, based on their origin. Sometimes people stigmatize others to their face by asking indecent questions. These are things that should be noted. Also, people with special diseases are often stigmatized. People with mental health are most often affected. People with HIV/AIDS, people with cancer. In the advanced world, this is handled much, much better. But in the developing world, honestly, when the person is sick, just a small percentage of the people you think cares always care. There is always this eagerness to tell people, oh, he's suffering from this, or she's suffering from this, or to stigmatize that person by naming this disease after the person. This is really not good. What are the effects? When you stigmatize people, you make them have feelings of shame. They feel so much ashamed. There are people who have had to take their lives because, the society will not accept them. They feel hopeless and isolated. You might be living with people, and at the same time, you might feel lonely. You might feel a sense of hopelessness. So, when people stigmatize others, they cause such people to feel they are in their predicament alone. They are always reluctant to ask for help. Our society is not a society where people are willingly ready to lay their heads down for others, to help others. And so people sometimes hide a problem until it becomes unsolvable, just because they want to run away from being stigmatized. Another effect is that people don't want to socialize. They feel bad to go to parties. They feel bad to even be where others are having like an holiday. They just want to be to themselves. Many times, the family, which happens to be, which happens to be able to give immediate support, sometimes lack understanding. Let's take people who are differently able, for example. In the advanced world, these people are well taken care of. They are they're cared of. They are always well taken care of. There is always attention and love. But when we come to the developing countries, you discover that these categories of people are often stigmatized. Oh. And so the family hides them in the house, make sure no visitor sees them, and keep them under lock for days and weeks and months, just because they want to run away from being stigmatized or embarrassment. Then there's harassment. People who are stigmatized would often feel harassed, often feel they have life to live, but they are not given the opportunities. And so wherever they are, there's always a feeling of discomfort, a feeling of shame. This should be noted. How can anybody cope with stigmatization? You need to avoid isolation. You need to avoid it. The only way you can make yourself happy is to tell yourself you are not in this alone. You are not in this alone. If you are carrying a kind of ailment, know that thousands of others are in the same position. Nobody is going to tell you. Nobody wants to discuss with the other person. But yet, somebody is going through the same situation or even worse situation that you are in. So you need to avoid isolation. Don't equate yourself with your illness. Don't say, oh, I'm ill. Then, you now say because you are ill, your life is just at par with the illness. There are many people who have been ill and they have gotten cured by speaking out on time. So if you are healed, if you feel something is just not right, you must have somebody to confide in. Confide in somebody. It's always very, very good. There are social welfare organizations. There are several voluntary organizations that are willing to help, willing to support. There are several foundations that will be ready to help you. Then we should learn to speak out against the stigma. Speak out. Speak out. Speak out. You are not in this alone. Thousands others are having the same experience. And whatever your situation is, it's not the end of the world. We must learn to face life and its challenges with boldness. Be bold. Then you can join a charity organization. If you are not joining us as a volunteer, you are joining as someone who needs help. Please speak out. Tell somebody what your situation looks like. How do we stop stigmatization? You must know the facts. What are the facts? We've tried in summary to just educate ourselves on some of the causes, some of the perceptions, some of the effects, But it is important to also know the facts. It is important to also educate others. It is important to support people. Let's learn to support people. Let them know they are loved. Ask if you can help. Ask how can you help. Ask what can you do. Then let's be focused on the positive. Be focused on the positive. Honestly, everybody has an element of stigma. No matter how you think what the world has been so good to you, no matter how rich you think you are, no matter how comfortable you see yourself, no matter how honored you think you've been, or how blessed you have been, there's an element of stigma that will still be associated with you, either noticeable or unnoticeable. So please, let's focus on the positive. Let's challenge misconceptions. There are a lot of misconceptions. It's a world of what I see, I say. What I see, I say. But have you tried to find out? Have you asked questions? Are you willing to ask questions? Why do you jump into conclusions? Why would anybody stigmatize the other person and brings the person down? Speak up. It is very, 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 very important. Whether you are the person that is stigmatized or you are the person that feels somebody else is, we should all speak up. Then be careful with your words. Many people demoralize other people by words. Let's take, for example, someone who just got married and the first 2-3 years they don't have children. In the advanced world, people may look away, but in the developing countries, and most especially in the African setting, people will begin to pretend as if they are praying for you. They begin to pretend as if they care. Most times it's all lies and fallacies. If you care, you don't have to say it to the person's face. If you care, you don't have to shout it. If you care, you don't have to drum it until you make people miserable. Just because you are stigmatizing them based on circumstances that surrounds their life at a particular time. And lastly, let's correct misinformation. Let's correct misinformation. There's a lot of misinformation. You had better keep quiet than misinforming others about a particular situation. Better to keep quiet. If you cannot help, you cannot help. If you cannot support, you cannot support. But please, stop stigmatizing others. Thanks for listening.